Welcome to the new world of animal allies, the doctors, volunteers, pet owners and other surprising visitors who are out there making a difference. In the UK, animal doctor Martin Andrews is forced to use all his skill when a routine operation suddenly turns to crisis. In Brazil, pint-sized endangered monkeys are lent a helping hand. Animal Allies How To looks at rescuing abandoned birds. And Animal World goes batty. Sparky, the little terrier, has lost his spark.
Right then, Sparky.
He's got a painful lump in his groin. British vet Martin Andrews thinks it might be a hernia. A hernia is a tear or hole normally found in the abdominal wall. Doc Andrews decides to operate on Sparky immediately.
Sparky was in a road accident about 10 days ago. He lives on a farm and somebody managed to reverse round rather quickly in the farmyard and knock Sparky over. He actually was reasonably well immediately afterwards. We had some x-rays of him because he was a bit sore on his back end, but they were all clear, and he actually recovered very well. But subsequent to that, he's now developed this swelling down in his groin and feels very much like in the process of the accident he's managed to tear his abdominal muscles in his groin, and it's left him with what looks very much like a hernia, really. So we're going to open that up and have a look at it and see if it is a hernia, and if it is, we've got to put it all back where it belongs and stitch it up.
Sparky's leg is moving, indicating he needs more anaesthetic.
Quite right.
Once he settles, the nurse continues her preparations while Dr. Andrews scrubs up. A student vet is here to observe Sparky's operation. First, the area causing concern is isolated. Then an incision is made over the hernial sac. A hernia usually develops where muscles are weak. The organs behind the muscles push through and cause painful swelling. A closer look shows Sparky's condition is better than Doc Andrews first thought.
In actual fact, in this situation, there's fairly minor tearing of the inguinal ring there, but most of this lump is not actually true hernia. It's actually a large sort of hematoma that's formed.
A hematoma is a blood clot. This was probably caused by internal bleeding after Sparky's road accident.
It's a little bit easier to deal with than we first thought, really. Yeah, I need a drain, please. Yeah. This is an area which is now going to accumulate fluid post-operatively, so we'll need to put a drain in.
A rubber tube is passed through the hematoma to stop any more blood accumulating in the area.
How long do you keep the drain in for? We'll keep this in for about 3 or 4 days, and we'll take it out on Monday.
By then, the area should be fully drained and the hematoma gone. But while Sparky is being stitched up, his condition takes a dramatic turn for the worse. His breathing becomes laboured and his tongue turns blue. The tough little terrier will need to be monitored closely until his breathing improves.
I have to have a collar to go home with him, so if someone's to chew at his strain, there's an option for him. I mean, the dog's fairly stable, but not terribly well, really. But we'll certainly need to keep it in overnight, because it's lost quite a lot of fluid, so we're in the process of replacing all that, really. But I've got to, when I finish this, I'll speak to the owner.
In Animal Doctors Part 2, the battle for Sparky's recovery, we'll rejoin this dedicated animal doctor as Sparky's life hangs in the balance.
Alcides Piscianati is a man on a mission, an all-consuming mission of mercy to save the threatened mini monkeys of Brazil. He says it is an honor, but at the same time, a heavy responsibility.
I feel my heart very comfortable working here with the animals or plants. Okay. I have this great privileges, work in this land like this, not in cities, and God is gave me good condition. Thank you.
Doc Piscianati's story is all the more remarkable when you consider he is the highly distinguished head of Brazil's major primate centre. But his title and a modest wage are virtually all Dr. Piscianati receives from the government. He has the enormous responsibility of preserving critically endangered species, yet receives no financial support for the centre, no money to build enclosures, and no money for medicines. At times, he even puts up his own cash to feed the animals. This little chap's only chance of survival is a foster home in an overseas zoo. But to be accepted, Doc Piscianati must ensure the animal is in perfect health and disease-free. That means a thorough physical examination and vaccination. With the monkey's habitat rapidly shrinking, there is nowhere left for them to live. Most, sadly, have no choice but to go into cages or zoos.
The big problem for this species is habitat. Okay, we have been having some success in captive, but we have problem how or where we can put these animals that we breed in captivity, because no forest. They need forest.
Billions of square acres of primary forest continue to fall prey to slash-and-burn agriculture. And Doc Piscianati says the Brazilian government just looks the other way.
It's very bad. We are in a very bad situation now in Brazil. I don't know how we can do to change the mind of politicals. Because these people says, don't show bad situation, don't show this, only the good things. If you do, you are fired, you got a lot of problems. Terrible.
Gradually, through tireless hard work, Doc Piscianati is reclaiming some of the mini monkey's habitat. When the Primate Centre was established some 30 years ago, the surrounding area was barren. Now it's a thriving oasis, but it's a small victory in a bleak landscape. Still, Doc Piscianati is not about to give up. He knows the mini monkey's gene pool is so small that breeding must continue. Otherwise, despite all his work, fire, disease or some other catastrophe could easily wipe out the remaining animals in a single stroke. It's a tragedy Doc Piscianati has devoted his life to preventing.
I love primates. I cannot explain why. It's very special, primates, because it's closely related with the humans, behavior or anatomy. Very interesting work. I love, more than I like.
Right now, what forest is left is healthy. In fact, most is pristine. It's Doc Piscianati's continuing mission to keep it that way for his beloved animals.
After the break, Animal Allies takes a look into the world of bats. And will Doc Andrews solve Sparky's breathing trouble?
Birds are some of the most commonly found injured or abandoned creatures. providing care takes commitment and plenty of hard work. Animal Allies Guide to Helping Injured Birds. Wildlife rehabilitator Karen Price-Howells is on call 24 hours a day, rescuing Australian native animals.
See the white-tailed black cockatoos? They've come in from injuries, mainly being hit by cars. They're all missing part of a wing, so they're not going to be flying, so you can't let them go. The male pink and grey galah over on the perch there, he's a bit bald down his chest. He came in with a fatty tumour because he was fed too much sunflower seed, so we've had to remove the tumour and he won't be able to go back to the wild.
This baby wattlebird has fallen out of its nest. But before rescuing, it's vital to make sure the bird is obviously injured or abandoned.
So it's always best to have a quick look to see if you can find the nest. If you can, pick the bird up. It doesn't matter if you use your hands, and pop him back in the nest. If you do have to take it into care, best thing is to place it into a box on a soft cloth. Keep it nice and warm and quiet, away from any noise, away from cats and dogs.
Stress is one of the main killers of injured birds, as is feeding them the wrong food. Never feed milk or bread. The lactose will kill them quickly.
Anything with yellow or orange in its mouth is definitely a honey eater and an insect eater. So honey and water is all right for him for 24 hours.
So for this week's Animal Allies how-to, check the bird is abandoned and needs rescuing. Keep the bird warm and safe. Never feed milk and bread. And contact a wildlife rescue centre. The bat suffers from an image problem, but really they're an incredible mammal, highly developed and a master of the skies. There are over 900 species of bats worldwide, and they're the only mammals that fly.
Thanks, fella.
West Australia Wildlife Officer Norm Mackenzie has spent countless nights in the bush studying these unique little creatures.
There we go. Bats are peculiar. They've survived. Of all the mammals, they're the ones that are persisting best. And as far as we can see, the reason is that it costs 10 times more in terms of energy to hunt for food or search for food if you run on the ground compared to if you fly.
Norm and his friend Bob, a former aeronautical engineer, have joined forces in a unique study of the bat's world, focusing on wing speed and function. They're setting up nets in rugged Western Australian scrubland to trap the nocturnal animal.
Potentially we could catch 8 species here. In the past we have caught all 8. But particularly we're hoping to catch a Mormopterus, which is a free-tailed bat but smaller than the white-striped bat. We need quite a series of Gould's wattle bats to do more flight tests with. It's gone still, it's overcast, yet it's still quite warm, so it might be a very good night for bats.
White striped mastiff bat, there's his white stripe, which we believe are for formation flying at night. As he lifts his wing, the bat's flying beside him and behind him can see the white stripe in the moonlight and the starlight. We believe they use it for formation flying, just like geese and ducks fly formation during the day.
Coming from an aeronautical background, Bob is amazed at the bat's awesome aerial ability.
The technology in their shapes is similar to what we have in our helicopters and our aircraft and our fighters and our passenger aircraft of today, but they do it just so much better. Their application is just so superbly integrated. This guy controls the night sky. I often characterise this little fella as the king of the sky at night. What he does is he dominates the open spaces between the trees. He dominates that area and basically chases all the other bats from that area and forces them to forage around the periphery of his region.
The next morning, the team sets about measuring and logging bat wing dynamics. While this may look uncomfortable, the bats are not harmed, and once measured, they'll be released back into the wild.
His upper arms, his forearms, his thumb, forefinger, middle finger, fourth finger, and fifth finger. And that is the finger that's very important, because that controls the camber, that is the shape of the wing across the wing, which is all to do with lift.
Off the ground or off twigs.
Most bats hunt at night.
We call that
They can see in the dark, but only in black and white. They depend more on their hearing using a form of radar known as echolocation. It's so sensitive it can detect a single strand of hair. The bats make a series of high-pitched sounds. If there's no echo, they know the path is clear. But a returning echo tells the bat exactly where objects are, their size and shape, and whether or not it's food.
Of course, moths and their insect prey generally have learnt to detect the incoming signals and start to evade as soon as the sound bounces off them. So some bats nowadays actually turn their echolocation off in the final approach, and do it by passive listening and using their very acute vision for the final capture of their prey.
The research Norm and Bob are doing will be used to help determine which areas are important to bats and where national parks and nature reserves should be established.
From our point of view, the bottom line is, if we could predict in which region which of the species were most susceptible, then we could do something about it.
Bob and Norm monitor the animals as they fly off.
5, 6, 8, 15, 24, 26, 28, 30, 32, 34, down in the trees, lost him.
Bats can live for up to 30 years. While most species in Australia are not at risk, Bob and Norm are concerned they could soon be.
What we wanted to achieve with our study was to try and work out which bats are most vulnerable to the changes. Some of them we expect will hold on quite well for a long time, but others, those that are starting to disappear, obviously are not. We stand to lose them.
Lost him, can't follow it anymore.
There's an option for
Back at the vet clinic, Sparky has made it through a hernia and hematoma operation. But the terrier has not coped well under anaesthetic and is having trouble breathing. Doc Andrews hopes a chest x-ray might hold the answer.
Well, although he's been okay through the anaesthetic, he hasn't taken it quite as well as he should, and in view of the fact that he's had this road accident, I just wanted to check that his chest was okay. He's had no symptoms associated with his chest since the accident, but being as he's not been quite as sort of stable under the anaesthetic as we'd have thought, just a precaution, I'm taking an x-ray of his chest just to see that whether or not there's any problem there, whether or not his diaphragm's okay, really. X-rays.
While on the x-ray table, Sparky suddenly stops breathing.
Huh?
Doc Andrews needs to act quickly. The nurse checks Sparky's anaesthetic levels and pumps air into his lungs. There is still no sign of recovery. The nurse massages his heart. Doc Andrews needs to give Sparky an adrenaline injection to kickstart his heart. This is life and death. Timing is critical. The injection works. Thankfully, Sparky is breathing again. Doc Andrews now has time to look at the x-rays which show air has leaked out of Sparky's lungs and into his chest cavity. A syringe is used to suck the air out. This will help Sparky's lungs inflate properly and make breathing easier.
It's one of those things where you've got to act quickly, right? And he's still not entirely out of the woods now, but he's a lot better than he was. He's taken about 100 mils of air from his chest.
Like people, some animals can react negatively when anaesthetised, and all anaesthetics do carry some risk.
Under the anaesthesia, he's under a little bit more stress, or his system is, and he didn't take that quite so well, which is why I wanted to investigate him with a chest X-ray. It all became revealed fairly quickly what was going on. I mean, he's hopefully through the worst of it, and he's coming round now, and he's not on an anaesthetic machine anymore. But he's going to take a little time to come round properly, really.
Although Sparky is breathing more easily, his recovery may take a little longer than expected. He will need to be kept overnight for observation. But Doc Andrews is hopeful Plucky Terrier will be ready to go home in the morning.
Good. Well done, mate.
In the next programme, the world of animal allies continues when the king of the jungle is laid low by a mystery growth. Unconscious, he looks like a harmless pussycat, but no one's taking any chances. And Animal World investigates the ferocious nature of the Africanized honeybee and see why it's been nicknamed the killer bee.
There are ways to make a difference.